Louisiana will receive nearly $3 million to extend broadband services to the unserved and underserved. This is the first installment of more than $1 billion expected to be allotted to Louisiana over the next 5 years. Senator Bill Cassidy is joining us today after speaking at the Broadband Solutions Summit this week. Senator Cassidy, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thank you for having me. Good to be with you.
Yeah, this is a topic we've been talking about a lot, but I feel like it's one that if it doesn't affect you, you may be unaware of how big of an issue this is, that some folks have no internet connection or not a reliable one in our state. And from what I'm understanding, the Louisiana Illuminator had an article saying this affects about 400,000 people in our state.
Oh, absolutely. And there are whole parishes in which there's no internet connection almost.
Wow.
In fact, according to Microsoft, I think we're 6th worst in the nation. Now, because of that, by the way, in the bipartisan infrastructure bill, which I helped negotiate, the states that get the most money are the ones that have the worst internet connection. So Louisiana is, I think, 8th best proportionally in receiving money from the bipartisan infrastructure bill to make sure that all of us have access to high-speed, affordable internet.
Yeah, and so Louisiana is actually the first to receive some of this funding, this $3 million, but there's a lot more money to come. Kind of break down that money for us.
Yeah, so the first $3 million is dealt through the planning, but it's estimated there will be over $1 billion coming to our state to make sure that everyone has access to high-speed, affordable internet. And an example of the power of this, the mayor of Grostead made a decision with the USDA grant a few years ago to get high-speed internet in his town. And now it's building out as a bedroom community for Baton Rouge. It's east of Baton Rouge. They've got a gas station which is expanding tremendously because they can now use internet at the gas pump in order to pay for the charge, so more people are coming there. His tax base is increasing, his population is growing. This is how we revitalize communities.
Yeah, it's something so basic that it impacts everything. Of course, during the pandemic, you had adults who were at home trying to work. You had kids who were trying to learn from home at school, right? And so it impacts everything, including businesses as well and how they function.
Absolutely. Evangeline Parish, which has received from money from another federal source, has just cut the ribbon 2 months ago on making sure that everyone in Evangeline Parish has access to internet. Now, this can be the stepping stone to economic development in Evangeline, which has seen its population shrink just like Grostead. For her whole state to do better, we all have to have this access. For healthcare, for business, for education, this moves us forward.
And I know that Governor John Bel Edwards has said that by 2029, he wants to see the state put an end to these internet disparities. Do you think that's a practical timeline?
Oh, absolutely. If you look at the contracts being let, I think there's 47 of them that are clear to go. They have to have internet access, the type we're describing, within 18 to 24 months after they sign the contract. Which means if you're in a community which is receiving one of this first tranche of dollars, 18 to 24 months from now, you will go from nothing to having access to high-speed, affordable internet.
And as we've mentioned, this is, of course, part of the larger infrastructure plan. But on this issue particularly, it seems, I don't know who would be against this. There seems to be bipartisan support around it.
Absolutely. And if you think of our state, there are areas in our state that are 20 to 30 to 50 years behind where they should be. This gives a business the reason to move there. Once a business begins to move there, you start creating new jobs, better paying jobs. We catch up in those areas of our state which have been lagging behind.
Sure, and you've highlighted a couple of those areas. Will you also talk about Ville Platte? Because I understand this initial funding will be tied to them as well.
Yeah, so Ville Platte, according to the mayor of Ville Platte, Jennifer Verdreen, was 3rd worst in the nation in parishes and counties as regards access to internet. There's about 3,500. Jennifer tells me they were 3rd worst. When this is complete, they will be best. As Jennifer says, they're going from worst to first. Now think about what that means for someone who wants to move back to her hometown. She says, my husband has to Zoom to work. He works in New Orleans, but we can live here and he can telecommute. I've got a business and I've got to be able to handle my business. I want my daughter to be able to get Mandarin lessons online, and maybe my son has some health issues. All that is addressed with access to high-speed, affordable internet. Without that, that family doesn't move home. With that, that family moves home, invests in Ville Platte, and Ville Platte begins to recover its glory.
Yeah, it lets people live where they love and still have access to the rest of the world. It's really life-changing.
I'm going to steal that line. They get to live where they love, and they get access to the rest of the world. That's the promise of universal access to high-speed, affordable internet.
Well, this is huge for the nation and for our state. Senator Bill Cassidy, thanks for joining us to break it down.
Hey, thank you. Sorry for the construction in the background.
It's totally fine. It's the world of the internet. Thanks for joining us on Zoom this morning.